Hey, folks, it's Dave here. And the first comment as I get in here, I'm a little bit late here. I was just putzing around here. Steve Tower, good to see you, Steve. Bring back Pack Patriot full time. You want it. I want it. Everyone wants it. Yes, that's one of the things I want to talk about here tonight. Here's I was I took today. Well, I worked this morning. I had to work 14 hours yesterday, and I was beat. And I finished up this morning, and I said, after I get done here, I was done around 11:30. I says, we're going to grab lunch, and I'm going to sit, and I'm going to watch TV. Just going to watch football till I fall asleep. And I was noticing all the changes out there. The Patriots look good in their uniforms. They still are a terrible football team, but they look good. New Orleans Saints, they had the white helmets and the white jerseys. No, they're usually the dark gold helmet. I like the white helmet. I thought it was kind of interesting. Kind of reminded me of the old Tampa Bay Buccaneers white helmet and white jerseys, which they wore today, and looked just like the 76 Buccaneers. Holy cow! Did you see they're lining up to kick a field goal to put them up by 9 or something like that? It gets blocked and run back by the Jets. Let me rewind that. It gets blocked and run back for a touchdown by the Jets. And the Jets were up by a point with a minute and a half to go. And I'm watching the Buccaneers like trying to chase the Jets when they were running back the field goal. And it reminded me of the 76 Buccaneers. It did. I was like, how many years as a kid did I grow up watching those Buccaneers chase down block kicks? But then the Bucs did come back and win it. So the Jets did lose today. So it still wasn't a terrible day. But you had the Buccaneers in their old uniforms. You had the New Orleans Saints in something new. You had the Patriots in their flashbacks, which you might as well go back to the Patriot old uniform because they're not going to be worth watching. So put them in something nice. At least we'll watch something nice. And then the Cleveland Browns, they had the all brown helmet instead of the. Well, let me see. No, their helmet was. Is it a brown helmet the Browns have? But it was a real dark brown. It was a different brown in all brown uniforms. No, they have an orange helmet. Yeah, now they're brown. So that was that. As Barbara comes by and Keith comes by and he says, I thought the creamsicle was going to jinx it. Yeah, it looked like it did. It really did. I was actually following along. I ended up falling asleep. I was so tired today. And I was like, oh, Buccaneers are in control. They're going to win this. And then the Jets get 21 points in the fourth quarter, and they almost won it. And I just watched the highlights. I was like, wow, you got to be kidding me. I can't even fall asleep on these Buccaneers without them doing that. And then Mr. Tower says Jets and the Finns are 0-3. So aside from Buffalo, I guess we're not too. If this was the NHL, we'd make the playoffs, right? Because we're in the top 4. I was going through some old, as I do. I literally spend hours of my day while I'm doing something on the reference sites, the football and baseball and hockey reference. And I talked to Ron today for a while, and we're like both on it while we're talking. We were just talking about old playoffs, and it's funny to see how many teams made the playoffs in the NHL back in the day that were terrible. And we were kind of looking at if you've ever been to the reference site, you had the playoffs all in order, and it was the divisional rounds were the one place 4. There was a lot of sweeps. The bottom team barely won it all. That's how bad they were getting into the playoffs. Although once in a while you'd see a 4 defeat the 1 seed. I think it was Hartford over Quebec one time. But yeah, we were watching all these teams that get into the playoffs and never won a game. It's like, man, what are we doing? There's some bad teams here. It really was. Mr. Jet comes by. And Sean comes by. Good to see you. And Rob, the Eagles fans, admit we were lucky today. Yeah, what you guys? A lot of block kicks today. I saw the Eagles blocked the kick. The Jets blocked the kick, and there was another field goal blocked as well. Then there was some winners at the buzzer. Look, San Francisco won at the buzzer, and San Diego won at the buzzer. So there was some excitement today. It was a good day to watch football. I put it on, and I got to about the third quarter before I was just too tired, and I crashed for a couple hours, and I get up and I was watching the 4:00 games and sitting there. I had the iPad, and I had the NFL Network on the iPad, and we were watching something on TV. I guess that's the thing to do when you kind of half watching what's on the TV. She was like scrolling on her phone, and one of her things she likes to do on YouTube is watch the people go into the abandoned mansions. Have you ever seen those videos where there's this, these rich houses and that have just been abandoned, and sometimes they're in the middle of nowhere, and these people go in and just film, and they poke around, and it's pretty wild to see. And they won in one in Arizona today, and it was just huge thing, a 4-car garage and all these different wings of the house and guest rooms and everything. And it looked like they tried to like scoop as much stuff as they could and leave, because there was stuff like left at the doors and stuff. And I guess it was some kind of a story to this abandoned house, but it was just kind of wild seeing, here's the hot tub and here's the pool, and it's all overgrown, and because no one's been there in about a year or two, or sometimes it's 10 years. And so she has that on. It's just kind of mindless watching. So I got the football off to the side, kind of watching. She's on her phone, like. I guess that's just the normal way to watch TV now, is to have something else on while you're watching something together. Playoffs, yeah. You want to talk about playoffs? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's going on with the playoffs. I guess I don't even know anybody anymore. I try to watch these games and I root for laundry. I'll admit it. If I like how your team looks, I'm going to root for you. And it's Seattle today. They crushed New Orleans, but New Orleans looks so good in those uniforms. I was pulling for them, but they got destroyed. But most of the games have been close, so that's kind of interesting. We had some close games yesterday, as Rob says, two kicks for Eagles. They had blocks. Oh, maybe they did. Yeah. So I got the play-by-play going up in New Hampshire right now. So we had 2 games yesterday. I got 3 games on Saturday. 1, 4, and 7. That's going to be a long day. And so we lost the first one, and then the other level won the second game. So that was kind of fun to see. And I think I'm like in mid-season form already. I don't know what happened, but I did those 4 or 5 preseason games, and I stumbled through them and had But now the regular season started, I'm right on top of it. I was pretty happy with I was like, man, this is only the second game of the season, and I'm like, boom, I'm hitting the names and following along pretty good. I was pretty happy with that. So that's been kind of fun doing that again. Really enjoyed doing that. But then, holy cow! So a buddy of mine, my buddy Ray, sends me a message, and he says, is heaven still looking for goalies? Do they have a goalie shortage up in heaven or something like that? And I was like, so I thought he was talking about, Dryden or Eddie Jockerman. And it's just been kind of weird that, first it was Dryden and then Eddie Jockerman. And I didn't know that either one were really sick. I didn't know that. And then somebody posted today that Bernie Perrant passed away. I was like, what are the chances in the last 7 to 10 days that 3 of the all-time greats passed away? It's like, holy cow. It was just pretty amazing. It's just like, man, that's like your entire childhood wrapped up almost into one as far as goaltenders go. And I played goalie, so I was big into goaltenders. So I started playing goalie when I was a teenager. Just because they were we needed a goalie. Is what it was. We needed a goalie, so I just started playing that. And I started enjoying it. Started enjoying playing goalie, and I played goalie for 10 years or so before I just got tired of it. But yeah, so I grew up watching the goalies and following the goalies. I used to like looking at their masks and things like that. And yeah, and so when I found out the 3 of them died, it's like, wow, I didn't know any of them were really sick. Again, I don't, you get to our age, and people that you used to watch on, when you were kids. I mean, they had to be 10, 15, or 20 years older than you. So as I approach 60, these people are approaching 80. So no matter what sport it is, or if they're actors or whatever they are, if they're professional sports players, yeah, their body takes a beating and things like that. And so, but I was surprised to have those 3 in a row. I mean, every day there's someone on one of the Facebook groups, and he has this like little RIP memoriam when a player dies, and it's usually baseball, and it's like a baseball player, and it's like the year he was born to the year he died, and then there's a little baseball theme, and it's kind of neat. And I don't want to say neat because he died. You know what I mean? But it's a nice little way of saying, hey, thanks, and we recognize you. And but every day he posts something because every day somebody dies, and it's a lot of times I don't know the person, but every now and then there'll be someone that I do know, and it's just we're at the point now where yeah, just about every single day an athlete dies that we know or we've heard of or we watched, and it's sad. It's kind of sad, and but we realize these people are in their 70s or 80s or whatever it is, and it's like, well, they're not the 25 or 30-year-old player that we saw back in the 70s. And it's just sad, because it's a little every time somebody we know like that dies, it's one step closer for our mortality. It's kind of sad. And these are people that we watched and we look up to. And I just watched, I found a channel on YouTube, and what this channel does is they were showing all the old like 15-20 minute clips of the playoffs. It was like almost like a show like ESPN did or something like that, or maybe the NHL put together. And it follows along with some of the just quick clips of like the opening series, and then it just goes to the next series, and then it goes all the way to the finals. Of course, the finals gets most of the airplay, but it was just kind of neat following along to see some of the matchups and some of the old players, and some of the ones from the 70s I saw. They had Dryden and Jockerman and Perrant, and it was just kind of cool, seeing all that again, and then to find out that the big three there passed away all real close to each other. It's kind of sad because that's stuff I grew up watching, and that stuff. Let's face it, that's stuff we play. That's stuff we play right here on our table. We play those people quite a bit. At least I do when I'm playing hockey. I do a lot of the 70s, and I'll not so much Montreal. Montreal always won, just like the Yankees. I don't play much Yankees because they always won, so I want to play other teams. So I don't play much Canadians because they always won. But when I do play now, I got a newfound respect for those teams, and I've played them once in a while. But I'll have Perrant on here, and especially Eddie Jockman. I always like the Rangers. So, and P Jet says I patent my goaltending style after Eddie. Come out to cut down the angles, try to outrace the skater to the loose puck. And Tony was the butterfly, says Rob. Yep. Mr. Turnbull comes by. Good to see you. Yeah, just kind of talking a little bit about the goaltending and a little bit about the NFL helmets today. We'll probably get some gaming into. This is my round 2 of coffee. You know what I got my digital to dice mark. You know what I do with my coffee is we got the Keurig. So I'll make a cup of decaf, and I'll drink about half of it, and then I'll go back and I'll keeping the same pot in there. I'll make like a smaller cup just to warm it up, and it's always terrible because it's just not as strong as you don't get that coffee. It's more watered down. But I try to always extend my cup of coffee with making a half cup, if you know what I mean. And I do it all the time, and every time I do it, it's like, why do I do this? Because the second cup is always watered down and terrible. It's really thin, but that's just what I do. Mr. AP comes by. Thanks for coming by, AP. And Canadians always kick the snot out of Vancouver. Yeah. Rob, there was one playoff series. I don't know if it was 75, 76. There was one playoffs that Montreal played Vancouver. Vancouver actually stole a game, and that seemed to be the theme in the 70s, is a team like the Rangers or Minnesota or Vancouver would steal a game in Montreal. Like they'd take game 1, and then Montreal would win the next 4. And I think that's what happened in one of those series. And Cutter comes by and says, yep, gone in 15 days. Yeah, a couple of weeks. Imagine that. A couple of weeks, and 3 of our goaltending heroes are, moved on. It's pretty crazy how that happens. So I'm kind of bummed about that, and I do plan on getting some of them on the channel. I do. Let me just open my window here. It's freezing outside, but it does get hot here with all the lights. So let me do this. I did get some highlight hockey on the table the other day, and I played what did I play? I played an old Bruins. I think I played a Bruins North Stars game, I think. And then I played, I got the notes right here. I played the Sharks, the 91-92 Sharks, the expansion team. And I just took whatever Grant put in for 91-92. And I just pulled out the teams and played. So I played the Sharks and the Blackhawks. And I guess the Blackhawks got to the finals that year. And I didn't realize that because I thought the Blackhawks were a terrible team. And so I played it, and San Jose, the expansion team, went up 3-0. I'm playing in Chicago, and they got goals from Lawton, Kissio, and Bozek. I know I've heard of Kissio, but I didn't know Bozek. No, Lawton, Bozek, and Presley. That's what it was. Lawton, Bozek, and Presley. 3-0 in the second period, and then the Blackhawks come back. Goals by Smith, Brown, Brent Sutter, and then a power play goal by Roenick. In the third. So Chicago scores 4 straight goals to come back and win that game. And so it was fun to get some highlight hockey back on the table. I almost pulled out either app or Hockey Bones. I'm kicking around whether I want to get 85 or 86. All right. 85, 86 is just been released for Hockey Bones on the good cards. I'm kicking around. So I started watching that channel I was just telling you about, the hockey channel. I started to watch 85, 86 playoff highlights to see if I'd be interested in picking up that season, because there's got to be some interest for me to pick up a season aside from just like the Stanley Cup. I need to have some other reasons to watch. And the Bruins were okay that year. Pat Regan was their goalie, and I don't remember much about Pat Regan, but I remember the Bruins from like right after that 78-79 playoff run with the too many men. After that, they really weren't that good through like 88 when they went to the finals. They had some bad 80s year. When I was in my high school years, they were just flat out bad. And even when they won the division one time, they got swept by Montreal, who was the 4th seed. It was just bad news after bad news in the 80s. 70s were tough, but the 80s were even tougher because maybe it was easier because they weren't that good. But there's got to be some reason for me to buy a season, and I need to have at least 3 or 4 teams that I want to play, or 10 or 12 players that I want to get on the table just for fun. And so I'm trying to figure out if that's what I want to do or not, is to buy that season. Yes, we were talking about that, the old Buccaneers helmet. So we had the Buccaneers and their creamsicles today. Well, wasn't technically the creamsicles, but they had this on, but it was the white jerseys, which is kind of neat. And the other thing, too, that I didn't realize until Chuck had told me this a few years ago, we were talking. He said, do you know that they played the Saturday, when the Buccaneers joined the league in the 70s, they played their home games on Saturday night. And I didn't know that. Again, I was just a kid, so I didn't pick up on it. I just remember that they were bad, and I thought the logo was cool. But I guess it was so hot on Sundays in Tampa Bay in the 70s that they would play Saturday nights instead of Sunday afternoons. So when they played at home, they played a lot of Saturday night games. Maybe as they got later in the season, they might have played some 1 or 4 o'clock games on a Sunday. But there's a lot of games that were played Saturday night, and I didn't realize that because it was the heat. Fast forward to today, and they're playing today, and they had I think the temperature said 120 degrees on the field today, so they're not afraid to play now. Maybe it's the TV money that got them to play in the heat, but they are playing in the heat, And Cutter says Jockman got victimized by bad luck Rangers teams, but the Rangers were always they were right there. They were right there. They did get to the finals against the Bruins, and they should have beat them. They beat the Bruins on my table all the time in 72. Let me tell you. And 78-79 with the Esposito team, that was I think that was after Jockman, but it still was it just kind of the Rangers getting so close. Perrant had a good stretch, yeah. When they won the cup there, they did a good job. And then Dryden was just nuts. I mean, Ken Dryden was just nuts. He took a year off because he was mad, and he come back and won a cup. Just come on, Rob says best helmet, Seahawks silver helmet. Yeah, when they come into the league, I do like the old silver ones. The Seahawks, the silver with the blue, I like that. When they went to the green, and when Tampa Bay went to the pewter and the red, yeah, they lost me. I like those expansion colors. I used to have the little figures there that I used to get, and I got the Seahawks in Tampa Bay, and I used to love those little action figures. They were great. Wish I still had them. I'd probably still play with them. Kidding, maybe not. Joe comes by. Hi, Joe. Joe was on the show last week. That was one of my favorite chats, actually. I mean, we've had good shows, but to have a chat and I was able just to ask questions, and that was my favorite thing about that show. There is that sometimes we come on, we have a topic, but I actually got to ask a lot of questions that I haven't been able to ask anybody before about someone that played almost exclusively one game for many, many years and then made the change to other games. And I've always wanted to talk to somebody that did that. And Joe was that guy this week. And I thought we had a really fantastic show. I got to ask him a lot of questions about what he's going through, what he's feeling, what his thoughts on some things, and the whole process of you eat at the same restaurant all the time, and then you go to a different one. And it's like, okay, that must be really really weird. And so I got to talk to him about that. I chat about hockey goalies, and no one gives Joe Cards a heads up. Yeah, I just jumped on. It was just kind of last minute, Joe. I'm kind of having a rough day. I just had I worked a lot the last few days. I'm just kind of half asleep, half tired. And I said, I'm just going to jump on and say hi. Let me see here. And Carter says, he thinks I'm thinking 90-91 when the Hawks went down in round one. Maybe that was it. But I played that 91-92 game because that's the season that I have. And they struggled with the Sharks, but they came back and won. But I think that's the year that they won their conference. So 91-92. Yeah, Pittsburgh and Chicago. Chicago actually finished in second place that year behind the Red Wings with 87 points. The Sharks won 17 games that year, their expansion year. So I thought it was funny they gave a run. What I did, though, to be fair, I rolled the dice to see who would play net. And when I rolled the 17, it was Jimmy Waite. So it wasn't Belfour. And who are the goalies of the Blackhawks in 91-92? Yeah, it wasn't Belfour and it wasn't Hasek. It was Jimmy Waite. So Jimmy Waite was the guy that got the call, and his save number was a 2. And Jeff Hackett on the Sharks, I think his save was a 4 or 5. So right off the bat, the goalie was at the disadvantage in that game. But all the other numbers went the Blackhawks' way. So once I started to check to see who had the highest offense or the hit or whatever, it was all going Chicago's way, and they came back. But yeah, you might be right. So if I go the previous season, you're right. Minnesota over the Blackhawks. The Blackhawks won the division. So yes, you would be absolutely correct. 90-91, another season of mine. Yeah, around 75, Vancouver, Montreal. But you thought it was a sweep. Maybe it was a sweep. Because I know I have one of those seasons, and I was gonna play that season. Let me see. It wasn't 73-74. And Vancouver won the division in 74-75, and Montreal beat them 4-1. That's the one I'm thinking of. So Vancouver took game 2 in Montreal. They took game 2, and Montreal won the rest. So it was 74-75. So that's the year I was thinking of. Yeah, the Bruins got flattened by the Habs no matter what. They gave them some good runs in the 70s. And there was a couple times I thought, that game with the too many men, they kept coming back and taking the lead. I remember Rick Middleton scoring. I was like, no way, they're in the lead. And they just couldn't hang on. That late power play goal was just, man. And I was excited because the Rangers had already advanced. I was like, the Bruins are going to win the Cup because if they can beat Montreal, they're going to cruise by the Rangers. And I think I've actually played that series a couple times here on the table, or at least a couple games, Bruins-Rangers. As Mr. Dufferman comes by. And Cutter's going to play some Stone Cold Bernie Parent. Fantastic. Yes, the Buccaneers. And Enzo says, we're in the orange. Well, they're in the whites. They're in the whites in the orange. They weren't in the orange. They weren't in the darks. They were in the whites. Which, for some reason, as Gus comes by, hi, Mr. Gus. For some reason, again, the old Mandela effect here. When I see those Buccaneers, and I see the flashbacks in the white jerseys, all white. It's kind of like when I see the Colts in all white. When I remember the Colts in all white, in the 80s, they were not that good. And they were just, in the 90s too, I think before Peyton got there, they were just terrible. They would just get eaten up. And so it's just, when you saw the Bucks in the whites and the Colts in the whites, it's just like they just got smashed. that they weren't very intimidating, and they looked kind of clowny, dorky, if you will. And it's just like I'm looking at these guys in the white jersey, like, man, how do you take that serious? Because they lost so many games in those white jerseys, and the Colts were kind of the same way. For some reason, I just remember the Colts, being 2-12 and things like that, and being at the bottom even when they went to Indianapolis, they were bad for a while. And it's just seeing the Colts and the whites. It's like they're on the road in the white jersey, and they just got eaten up alive. It was just so when I see the whites and the Buccaneers, it just reminds me of teams getting just smoked. It really does. Okada says Waite was the starting goalie for that season because Belfort had contract issues. Oh, that I didn't know. I didn't know that. I just know he played 20 games, I think it was, and when I rolled the dice, the number 17 said Jimmy Waite was going to be the goalie. Did you already mention Eddie Jackman? Kick save and a beauty. Yeah, we were talking about that. Dryden, Jackman, and Perrant. Imagine that all in a couple of weeks. I love to go back and once in a while I'll catch you'll get an audio broadcast of a Ranger game with Marvell, but that was fun. I used to like to listen to that. And sometimes I'll just go back and watch some highlights of the Rangers. I like the old Rangers teams. I did. I don't know why. Just maybe because I saw them all the time. Because they would come to Boston, they'd be on TV. Boston would go to New York. They had a whole bunch of playoff games. If there was an NHL game of the week on NBC, it was either Boston, Chicago, or New York or Philadelphia. They really, very rarely do I remember seeing something aside from Boston, Chicago, or New York. Those are just the three teams that come up all the time. So I saw a lot of the Rangers. I was surprised to find out how many trades or how many players were on each team. You think of, obviously Esposito and Hodge, they both went to the Rangers. Vadnais and Doak played for the Rangers, which that I didn't know. I didn't know Doak played for the Rangers, but Vadnais I remember. And the Bruins, they had Rattel and Middleton. And I'm trying to think who else played for the Rangers. Park. Again, Park probably my favorite Ranger. I love Park as a Ranger. And so just they had a lot of guys for East Coast teams, which usually, you hated to trade with teams like that. Usually it was, Boston, Edmonton, or Boston, Vancouver, but Boston, New York was kind of weird to make trades. But there were so many guys that played on each team. So I just kind of like the Rangers. I don't know why. I just do. Let's see here. Yeah, that was the 4-1 series. I thought it was game 1 they took, but it was game 2. Not that it matters. And Mr. ID comes by. ID was playing some Apple hockey the other night. I come home from work and I took a shower, went to bed, and I was listening to him play last night. He was using the Excel helper too. That was kind of neat to see that he had that going. I just think it makes the game a little faster with all the rolls at once, and you can just see them all. There's a lot of dice rolling with Apple Hockey and Hockey Bones. There's a lot of dice rolling. If you're rolling the dice there's a lot of dice rolls. You can roll it, 6-7 times for one play. So having that helper roll, get everything done on one shot on the helper, get all the dice rolls is really kind of neat, and it keeps your shots and gives you times of the goal. It just does everything really nice, and you're still playing cards and dice. It's just you don't have to do all the dice rolls. But it was fun seeing him play Apple Hockey again. I think he was playing an older season too. Was it I think it was an 80s season, I think it was. It wasn't his normal 2013. He was playing an older season, so I did like that. And AP comes by and says goalie John Davidson really helped the Rangers get to the 79 finals. Yeah, JD was on fire. He really was. I was watching some of those videos on YouTube. I was like, wow, JD was pretty good. He was big, too. It's funny, the style of goalie, because that's a style I used to play when people come in and you'd slide and do the double pad stack so your legs would be together making the save. And then there was a lot of, kick saves. Like, you would take your skate and curl it on the ice because you have to keep your blade on the ice. And you would steer the puck into the corner. And that's how I played net. I was a stand-up goalie and just, there was no butterfly. You didn't have those little cushions on the knee pads. You used to have to try to land on the side of the pad. Otherwise, you hit the ice and you crushed your knee, and that always hurt. So there wasn't a lot of butterflying in my day, at least with my pads. I know Esposito did and a few other guys did, but that's why I saw a lot of goalies standing up because you didn't want to get hit above the pads. The leg pads you needed to absorb the shot. Anything up high hurt. And that's why I stopped playing net in the early 90s, is that my equipment was so bad, I was getting hurt, and I was only playing in pickup games. And I was like, man, this hurting. This stuff is hurting my chest and my arms. And then when I bought some new gear, I felt like a turtle. I couldn't move. My stuff was so, it protected me. I never felt it, but I couldn't move. It's like, I don't like this. And so I just like started cutting pieces off just to move. And then I would get hit with a puck. And it's like, I'm not having fun anymore. So I stopped playing goalie. But when I played, I stood up, and I try to do that now, and you can't do that now. I played, I don't know, was it 10 years ago? I played goalie again just for one game, and you have to get down. You have to play low, and that's the only way to play. And it's a very different game now. And Buffalo got Perot first overall in 70. Yep. If the Habs rules in effect, no way to save us. Yeah, that's what people don't understand is Montreal, they played some dirty pool in the 70s is what they did. I mean, they had this thing where it was like, there was a 50-mile radius around Montreal that no one could take one of the players in that radius, which was a hockey hotbed. So, and then there was a junior team that was just out of that, and I think they bought the junior team so they could get all the good talent. So it's no wonder why they won all those cups. So when you look, the stuff I didn't know as a kid, and now that I know, it's like, oh, now I know why they won all those cups, because they got all the best guys. When you get choice of the best guys, then you're going to have the best team. And looking back on like the SEALs and the Scouts, especially the Scouts and the Capitals, you see why they were so bad. They didn't have a chance. They were, here, you can take any fourth line guy you want. Great. So you got a team of fourth line guys. You can't compete. And nowadays they do it differently, because I think they finally learned the lesson that we can't have teams coming in and winning 9 games. Who's going to want to see that? That franchise is not going to survive. And who's going to want to put up millions of dollars for that? So they fixed that. I think they went overboard. That year Vegas went to the Cup in their first year. That was a little overboard, I thought. But at least they didn't win 9 games. So, yeah, so there was some rule changes and things that I didn't know. And now I do know. So, that makes sense. So I don't make as much fun as of the Scouts and the Capitals anymore, because now after reading what they went through, that's about what should have happened. And I still don't think it's right, but that's how the 70s were. And some teams survived and some didn't, and that's too bad. Oh, let's see here. Rob says St. Louis Cardinals and their white were brutal too. Yeah, that's another team St. Louis, they were always a team, as Jeff comes by. Hi, Jeff. Good to see you. The St. Louis Cardinals of the football of the NFL. I remember growing up watching them, and they had was it Otis Smith was the running back, and Jim Hart was the quarterback, and they had a really good wide receiver too. I'm trying to remember his name. And they were always near the top of that NFC East, but they just couldn't win a playoff game to save their life. And, I used to get sick of Dallas winning. So I was like, look, I kept pulling for St. Louis. They always have a good to really good regular season. And this is how I remember it. But they never could really win a playoff game. Or if they did, they would win the one game, and then that was it. But I don't think they ever really went anywhere. And they never were awful until the last 30 years. But growing up as a kid, St. Louis was like, man, this is a good team. They got a good quarterback and running back, and I forget who the receiver was, but he was pretty good. And they were a tough team. And then, I think when they went to Arizona, they stunk for most of it. But I remember there was a game they played Miami. And it seemed like as a kid back, it was like wrestling. Remember wrestling back in the day? You never had 2 big guys going at it on TV. It was always, here is, pick you got Jimmy Snuka against Barry Hart. Here is, Chief so-and-so, whoever it was, Chief Jay Strongbow against SD Jones. You never have 2 big guys matching up on TV. So every matchup was just this famous guy, or well-known guy against somebody that just got beat every week. And that's kind of how football felt. It just felt like you never had the big matchups. I mean, yeah, you had your divisional matchups, but to get like a Dallas Miami or a St. Louis Miami, which were the better teams back in the day, it never seemed to happen. I remember one day that St. Louis Miami were playing. I was like, oh man, this is going to be the matchup of the century. St. Louis first place, Miami first place. This is going to be an unbelievable game. What happens? Miami destroyed them. I was so bummed out as a kid. It's like, oh man, I thought St. Louis was good. I was kind of hoping that they would beat the Dolphins because that would be better for the Patriots. Nope, nope. They got smoked. So that's so right after that, I was like, oh, St. Louis ain't that good. Um, and Mr. Gus says, not to sound too much like Abe Simpson, but I don't like it when football teams wear matching dark tops and pants. Yeah, so, yeah. When it's all one color, it does look kind of weird. I think today Cleveland had a brown helmet, a brown shirt, and brown pants, like real dark, and it looked kind of weird. So yeah, sometimes it's like a little bit of something. Although it is kind of weird, like you say, if you got like the Colts with their whites and their white pants, and then they play the Patriots with the red and the white pants. It's a lot of white. It's a lot of white pants out there. So you kind of just looking for shirts. So uh, I like the silver. I like when the Lions and the Cowboys they got the silver pants. It's just a little different. I think Seattle actually did. Seattle had silver pants or gray pants, or did they have white? I don't remember what back in the day. But I like a little bit of color like that. I think that's kind of neat. And everybody in New York loved Brad Park. Yeah, I was a Brad Park guy. I have my buddy Ray sent me a Ranger jersey. I have it hanging up in my room right now. Blank. I thought about sending it out and have Park put on it, number 2. Either that or I'll just probably pick up a new one and get Park on it. I forget if I think he sent me the white one, so I might get the dark one with Park on it. And Mr. Jeff says, I used to live a couple blocks from the vet in the Spectrum from 77 to 79. Flyers didn't win the cup, but they were still very good. It seemed like the Philly team started winning by 80. Well, I was talking to Juckett about that today. And we were talking about the Flyers, actually, probably because of Perrant. And we were talking about, and I says, boy, they got to the finals a lot. Have they won it since the 70's with Clark? And he said, no, they won those 2 cups, and that was it. But they did get there in 79, 80, and they lost to the Islanders. And then they lost a couple of times to Edmonton, and then they lost to Chicago. So they've been to the cup a handful of times. Just haven't won it. Let me see if I can pull this up. So the Flyers, last time they were there was 2009-10. Chicago beat them. And then before that, they lost in 96-97 to the Red Wings. So there's another time they were there. And then they lost 86-87. So it seems like every 10 years or so, they would get to the finals and they just didn't win. So kudos for them for getting there. I forgot how many times they actually did get to the finals. And Carter says, I thought Montreal had an exception clause that entitled them to get 2 top Quebecers like in 68, 69. Yeah, they had something going on that was a little shady, and you wondered why they always got the better players. I mean, you look at their third line. Their third line could have started on any team in the league for the most part. They were just like, you look at like when I'm playing on the table, the handful of times I have had them on the table and I get the individual cards, whether it's, App or Hockey Bones, I'm like, holy, this guy's a third line guy. It's like, what's going on here? And they were just so deep. And yeah, I have to check out Appa's ID's Appa game. Yeah, I was listening to that last night. Actually, I listened to it twice. I was so tired when I get home. I ate and I showered and I went to bed. So I put it on and I was listening to it and I fell asleep. And then I get up. I was like, oh, I put it on again and listened to the other part of it and fell asleep. That's what I do. Is I find some people that play games in the community. I'll put that on and that'll be my AM radio. When I go to bed, and when I say I fall asleep, it doesn't mean that it's a bad stream. It just means that as a kid, I would put on ball games on AM radio, and that's how I would go to sleep. And so I do that all the time. And I think I've mentioned that before. Is that if somebody does a game on YouTube, but it's a new one or an old one. Sometimes I find an old one, and I'll put that on rather than listening to whatever's going on modern day with sports. I'd rather put on a YouTube friend than something else. So last night, idea of the Appa going on, I was like, oh, this is fantastic. I'm gonna listen to some Appa hockey tonight, and it's kind of neat. And it's always fun to watch somebody or listen to somebody play a game that you play. It's so relatable. I love that when I have my favorite games here on the table, and then I see someone playing those games, I'm like, oh man, this is great. this is great because I completely relate to what's going on. I don't know if you guys, when I play, if you guys do that when I play, if you relate to that. And ID says he was playing 84-85. The 85 players. Oh, it's Quebec. Quebec, 84-85 playoffs with Quebec. Well, now I need to check that out. So if you were playing the 84-85 series with Quebec, were they playing, was it Buffalo or Montreal they played? Oh, then they lost to the Flyers. That's the year the Flyers got to the Cup. So they beat Buffalo, they beat Montreal in 7 games, and then they lost to the Flyers in 6. That might be a fun one to do to see if how Quebec would do against Edmonton. That might be a nice what if Stanley Cup. I've always liked the what if Stanley Cup. So, like, what if this team had not lost, like the Bruins, if they had not lost to Montreal and they played the Rangers in that 78-79 finals, what would that be like? I love the what ifs. That's the one time I do like the what ifs. And Gus says, imagine growing up in the Catskill Mountains back in the 80s and being a St. Louis Blues fan. You could only listen on the radio when the conditions were right. I remember as a kid, this is going way back. All right. Let me see if I can do this. Oh. All right, there's my way back thing. I had this boombox, and for some reason, I could get tons of AM radio stations on this boombox. I don't know why. It must have had the right ferrite filter in it or something. But I remember, at night just having the AM radio on, flipping around, and I picked up clear as a bell Detroit Red Wings one night, and it must have been in the early to mid '80s. And the Red Wings are terrible, but they had Steve Yzerman. Steve Yzerman, I think he got like 2 shorthanded goals one night, and the Red Wings lost like 3-2 or 4-2. But it was just like this. It's all they said: Yzerman, and he was the only guy the guy mentioned on the broadcast. And I got the Detroit feed too that night. And I remember listening to, like I say, a couple of Red Wing games. I always got the Rangers. I could always pick up the New York Rangers. One night, I was spinning around the dial. I think when I was an adult, actually. And I bought an AM radio specifically for AM DXing to try to pick up faraway stations. And one night, I was sitting in the kitchen listening, and I picked up the Ranger game. I was like, oh, I didn't know the Rangers were playing tonight. I picked up the Kitchener Rangers. And every night, or every time the Kitchener Rangers were on, I could pick up their games here in Massachusetts. And it was pretty wild. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool listening to the Kitchener Rangers. I didn't know anybody back then. I don't even know if we had internet back then. But I still like to listen to the Rangers games. Marv Albert was great. And Jeff said, yeah, I would like to see the NHL go back to the light jersey at home and dark on the road. When I play, that's how I play. White jerseys at home. That's what I grew up with. That's what I like. I don't like the darks at home, or at least mix it up. Maybe first half of the year go dark, second half white, something like that. But I like the white jersey at home. And Jesus saves and Esposito scores and a rebound. Yeah, I think I had that bumper sticker as a kid. I think I did. And Gus used to listen to a lot of Capitals games back in the day. What is back in the day, Gus? Is that 70s or 80s or 90s? What is back in your day? Because I'm interested to see if you listen to any 70s games, because they were terrible in the 70s. Oh, you know what my friend got? He goes like to the Goodwill stores and all those places, and he finds all the bargains. He found a T-shirt and he picked it up. I was kind of hoping he's going to let me buy it from him. It was a T-shirt, and it had a Indian on it, and the Indian had a Kansas City Scouts logo on him. And it was like a secondary logo that they had, where they had this Indian with the axe and the headdress, but he had a Scout shirt on. And he didn't know what it was. And I was like, dude, that's like from the mid 70s. That's Kansas City Scouts. It's their alternate logo. How'd you find that in Massachusetts? And so he was like, yeah, it's pretty cool. I said, yeah, that's wicked cool. And Christopher comes by. Hi, Christopher. Yeah. Pat Tilley, the wide receiver in St. Louis. Mel Gray. No, Enzo's got it. Mel Gray. Yeah, Otis, Terry Metcalf. Yep. And Mel Gray. Yep. Those are the guys that I like to watch. Those are the guys I miss. And I miss the Eagles with a Kelly Green. Yep. Yeah, Kelly Green was good. Yep, I like that one there. Yeah, Mel Gray. Yep, that's the one. J.V. Kane. I don't remember J.V. Kane, but yes, the Kelly Green is going to be good. And Gus ordered Quick Deck's Hockey version 2. Yeah, Yeah, I should have that coming in pretty soon myself. Grant said he's going to do some videos on that, so I'm dying to see that because if it's better than version one, it's going to be unbelievable. Because yeah, I played it the other day. I still think it's such a different game. It's the highlight hockey. It's not going to replace any hockey game I have because it's so different, and that's what I like about it. It kind of found its little place on the bookshelf. You know, you get all your books on the bookshelf and your favorite books, and this one, like, it found a slot that I didn't know was open. Is kind of how I look at highlight hockey. Because I have my quick play games. You know, I got the quicker games here. You get to your Downey games, and then you got your Stone Cold, your Shootout, and your Red Ice hockey. Those are the little bit more than quick play games. They're not like an instant results game. I guess is what I'm saying. And then you got your full play games like your Bones and your Apper, and even Hockey Blast. I would say is almost like a full play game. And then between all that, the highlight hockey comes in right around a half hour, and it's just like, oh man, that just fits perfectly right there. And then the quick decks is obviously your full play game, and gets up there with the Apper and the Hockey Bones. But the highlight hockey, it just fits right in there in that slot. It really is. It's like, oh man, it just does a great job. So I'm dying to see version 2 as well. I hope it's not too much different because I like what I'm playing. That's what it is. And Enzo just watched Hulk Hogan and Frankie Williams. I don't even know who Frankie Williams was, but yeah, you know what I'm talking about. All the matchups back in the day were kind of crazy. And Jeff says, I remember watching the 82 championship game between the Cowboys and the Redskins in a department store on TV. Danny White got knocked out, and Hogaboom nearly led Dallas to the comeback win. Those are some good days. Good days. When you had Cowboys, Redskins. Remember that Tom Landry commercial when he comes walking out of the saloon, even when you're surrounded by Redskins? I think it was an American Express commercial, something like that. And so I really did like that. I like I said it before. I love the NFC East. In fact, the product I was thinking about doing was just playing the NFC East teams. I don't know what year, but just the Eagles, Giants, Cowboys, and Cardinals. They were just so good. Is there anybody else? Eagles, Giants, Cardinals, Cowboys. Those are the four, right? Am I missing somebody? Washington, Dallas, New York, Philadelphia, St. Louis. Okay, those are the five. So yeah, I enjoyed that. And Seattle did have gray silver pants, yeah. And yes, the original Seattle uniform, especially the helmet. Yes, yeah, I love that Seahawk helmet, how it come down and then the little curve at the end. And I saw a thing on YouTube about how they come up with that, and that was actually was it native? I don't know if it was native Indian or a native tribe symbol that was on like a totem pole or something, or it was in a cave or something. It was some famous symbol that was in that area with one of the local tribes. And again, no disrespect here. I think that's what it was. And so they used that for their logo, and I never knew that. And I thought that even made it even cooler. I was like, wow, that was awesome. The Cooperalls did not jinx the Flyers because they didn't jinx the Whalers, right? And yeah, they played 85 Oilers, 87 Oilers. They also lost to the Red Wings and the Blackhawks. We're talking about the Flyers there, is what it is. Last time the Flyers won the Cup, the Hustle was number one. Okay, Lindros got to the finals with the Flyers, but no championship. Okay. Rob says he likes the Kings purple and gold. Didn't they bring that back? Like a version of it? Did they bring back the gold and the purple? I thought they did. Like I said, I haven't watched much NHL in the last few years, but I thought I saw them bring that back. The Kings are one of these teams. They're like the Seals. Remember the Seals? Every year they would change their name or change the logo or change the jersey. That's what the Kings are doing. Like every year they do something, and it's pretty cool. I like what they've done. I like the old Kings with Gretzky, and of course I like the purple and the gold. And then they went to something else, and then they came back to this, and they went to that. So the Kings have done some really nice things with their jerseys, but the problem is they change them every year. So I would get one, but then it would be outdated. it's like people be like, "Oh, what jersey is that?" Because the Kings don't wear it anymore. So I think you can change the jersey too much. At least that's what I think. Let's see. And Jeff says, I'd like to get back to making videos on my channel demonstrating how I play the APBA Master game. Yeah, I have not played APBA Master Baseball in quite some time. I should get back to it because I enjoyed it. It took me a long time to play because I was checking like everything. I really liked the APBA Master Baseball. It was a lot more baseball. It got more players involved. It got more ratings involved. I did really like it. I did find that it was, for me, it was a lot to take in. But I don't know if I quite played it right. But I would like to go back to that. I like the fact that the pitchers and the batters had those little numbers at the bottom, and that really, it affected the at bat more than just the standard A, B, C, D rating of the pitcher. That was my biggest thing. And then there was also the lefty righty splits on there. That I like too, and I like that when you got hits, it went to different locations. And so it wasn't always static or stagnant, whatever you want to say. There was so much to love about the APBA Master Baseball. It was just a lot to it, and I would need to play it a lot to get good at it. And so I won't have the time this winter, but I'm thinking next spring when things settle down, I should try to get back to that and make that another effort to get back on the table with that. Because again, late night, the APBA Basic is the best. And I was talking to Ron about that today, how I really love how they have charts for all the different scenarios of base running. Like the football has different charts for where you are on the field. I think that's really kind of key to one of the things I like about APBA. And the Master, it does all that too. It gets way more involved, and it's not hard. It's just a lot. Excuse me, it's a lot happening. Yes, if you get back to that, Jeff, I will have to watch some of the APBA Master videos because I have not played that in quite some time. Yeah, what I want to do is let me slide that up here so I can not cover that up when I put the comments. Enzo says, when I fall asleep watching games on YouTube, I wake up in the middle of the night and there's a UFO conspiracy show on. I've done that. I used to listen to scary things at night, like the Art Bells and stuff like that. And yeah, I'd have the alien dreams and I'd be like, yeah, I can't be listening to that at night. So now I listen to lighthearted things like I'll put on like NFL radio or Mad Dog Sports and just listen to sports talk if there's nothing going on YouTube. I could switch my camera to black and white for these sequences. If I knew how to do that, I might, but I don't want to mess it up too much. I like the different angles. Like I said, I'll flick around just to kind of shake it up a little bit so I'm not so boring, even though I am boring. Jeff says, I jokingly refer to those uniforms as the Imperial Butter uniforms. Oh, yeah. Purple and gold like the Lakers. Yep. Fantastic. Mr. Jet comes by and says, Gus, that was me as a Seals fan in the 70s while living in Long Island. Listen on the radio to games from the West Coast until 1 a.m. on a school night. Yep. And that is quite the feat, pulling that in from that far away. I mean, at night, just the way that the atmosphere is at night, and the radio station, some crank it down, some crank it up at night, and so you can pick things up clear as a bell. I mean, I was in Hershey, Pennsylvania one time. It was like a Friday afternoon, and I was listening to the Bruins game. They had after Thanksgiving game, and they used to play at 1 o'clock in the afternoon or noontime or something. And we were driving to Hershey, Pennsylvania, and we get out, and I'm sitting in the parking lot in Hershey, Pennsylvania, listening to the Bruins game on AM radio. That's how far that feed went. And I was like, yep, picked it up clear as a bell. Listening to the game. It was kind of neat. And nowadays, it's all done. I can listen on my phone. As long as you got a signal on your phone, you can listen to a game. Joe comes by. Hi, Joe. We're just sitting here talking a little bit about the goaltenders that pass away, Dryden, Jockman, and Perrant. I was shocked to hear Perrant. Like I said, my buddy Ray sent me a message, and he just says, again, this heaven needs some goalies. I thought he was talking about Jockman and Dryden, and I didn't realize that Bernie had passed away until I get on Facebook. I was kicking around, and somebody posted that. I'm like, wow. PJet says he was listening to all the East Coast stations. I have an audio broadcast somewhere. I bought it on CD, like on eBay or something. And it's a CD of a game between the Rangers and the Seals from Madison Square Garden. But the audio is so low. It's like you can barely hear it. So I tried to bring it into my software program and I cranked the volume way up and it's still, you could barely hear it. So whatever you were listening on, you had to put it all the way up just to barely hear it. So, I mean, I'm glad that that audio survived, but I couldn't listen to it because it was so the volume was so low. The only thing I remember about that broadcast was Marv Albert saying that this Seals power play is atrocious. That's what I do remember about that. And the Atlanta Flames radio station was a blowtorch, crystal clear all the way up to Long Island. Yeah, I used to like the Flames. And so Gus is so late 70's, early 80's. So he was listening to the Capitals. That's what we were talking about, the Capitals back then. I'm a little late in the chat. Sorry about that. AP had a boombox in the 80's and had shortwave, which you could sometimes hear international channels. Shortwave is really weird. I'm behind in the chat. I'm going to try to catch up here. Shortwave isn't that really weird? I have a shortwave radio, and I used to listen to. And the idea behind shortwave is it's a shorter wave sign or whatever it is, and you can literally listen all around the world with these shortwave radios. And the one I have was a Radio Shack one. I don't even know if I have it. I think it broke, and so I threw it away. But you could pick up just people chatting, and I would do that. I would just listen to people talk on the shortwave radio, and there were a lot of boring conversations, but it was people, real people talking on these things, and they were far away. You didn't know where they were, and shortwave is strange because it's how far away you can pick up these things. It's like, wow, that's pretty wild. It really was. I don't know if people do that with the internet now. Everything's internet, so I don't know if people still use the shortwave, or at least as much as they used to. I never really, of course, I never broadcast or anything like that. But does anybody remember 45 RPM record of the NHL's 50th anniversary? No, I remember having some records as a kid. I had a Bruins one. I had a Cubs one. I had a couple of baseball ones that we used to listen to. It was a 33. It was a big one. And Chris says, I had a Charlie Brown radio as a kid that survived the 77 flood. And he was able to pick up the Yankees on ABC all the way in West Pennsylvania. I had a radio. When I moved into this house, somebody left behind a radio. It was a real old one. And it was the only radio I had that could pick up the Worcester station, which is a really weak AM station. And I think it was 580, and 590 out of Boston was a big one around here. So anytime I try to get 580 to listen to the Worcester hockey game, I could only get 590 because it was so big. But this radio, for some reason, I was able to listen to the Worcester games on. I could pick it up somehow I was able to get the Worcester games on this radio, and that was the only radio I could ever get it from. And again, that's before the internet, but I remember doing that as well. Let's see. Jeff says Philly in the late 70's had all four sports teams on Channel 17, along with classic cartoons. Oh, classic cartoons are great. They really are. Joe says, I remember the Capitals' first season. That was the worst team in NHL history. Yeah. Yeah, and we now know why is when we go back and read about the players they were given and just how they were treated by the league. It was like, why would you want to treat new teams this badly and have them stink for so many years and maybe not have them survive? Not a good business plan back in the day. You totally forgot about that commercial? See ya, boys. And he walked out and the door swung back and hit the Redskins. Come on, that was great. Mr. Dwayne comes by. Speaking of APA Master, he is so good at that game. I try to watch him sometime to follow along to see if I can try to remember how to play the APA Master game. And Dwayne said, I did play the Master game. Well, thank you so much. I tried. I really, it took me forever to play the APA Master game. I really enjoyed it. That was the thing, is I really enjoyed the APA Master game. It just was so busy. And I know if I played it more, I would get better at it. It's just, the basic game was just so easy. I could play it at night, not even think about it, because you just look at the chart and it tells you what to do. It really was. If if it wasn't so expensive and they had every player, I don't know if every season has every player. I would probably have more APA baseball season. That's kind of why I like to do the payoff pitch, because it's a lot cheaper. I do like the cards, and they have everybody. So I've kind of gravitated towards payoff pitch as my baseball game, just because of that. And the cards come all printed. I like that. I don't want to have to print everything. I like the season ticket too, but I do still have to print out everything, and it's a lot of cards to print out if you're doing the whole season. So that can be a lot. All right, that's enough of my cold coffee, my watered down coffee. Enough of that. I did like the Master game though. Um, and Jeff says he's learned a lot from Tebow and me. Well, I appreciate that. I learned a lot from Tebow too, and watching Dwayne as well. When we had Dwayne on here, I asked him a lot of questions that time. Coast to coast is the best while driving late. Isn't it relaxing, JAA? When you're just kind of chilling out and you just listen to something. Um, yeah, I like that. My new thing now is listening on YouTube to people that read the Reddit threads. Something I thought about doing too, because it's all AI voice and it's all the same. So I thought about maybe starting a channel up and reading some of the Reddit threads. I want to look into it to see what the legalities of it are, if that's in any way not the right thing to do, or if you could just read it. But I thought about putting my own voice to it because some of the stories that I'm listening to all the stories now of people who are trying to cheat and steal from people. It's like the woman that's dating the guy and he's got a big inheritance coming, and so she's talking to her friends about, oh, I'm just going to marry him, and then in 6 months I'm going to take all his money, and he finds out, and it's crazy stories, and I don't know how many of these are true or not, because some of them are like, wow, there's no way this would happen. But so that's what I listen to now, just to chill out and just to kind of kill some time and veg out. The stories are just outrageous, like the the wife forging the husband's signature to steal his mother's house and then sell it and think she's in the clear and going to run off with some other guy. And then she ends up in jail, and oh my gosh, the stories are crazy about the girls that are like, you need to buy me this $8,000 designer bag or I'm leaving you. And then the guy's like, yeah, we're all set. I'm not buying you that bag. I just bought you one last week. So it's like it's stuff I can't relate to. I can't picture my wife saying she wants an $8,000 bag. It's like me saying I want an $8,000 season. It ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. And then, they try to sue the guy for not buying him the bag. It's like this can't be real. This can't be real. People can't really think like this. If I wanted to buy an $8,000 season from whatever company because it was gold plated, and the wife said no, and I'm gonna sue her because she won't buy me that season. I mean, come on. So that's my. I used to like the Art Bell stuff myself. But now I do like to just kind of listen to the weird stuff, and some of the stuff's work stuff too, like what happened that made everybody quit at work. And it's like the boss would do something, or they change the rules and everybody walked out on the boss. So they're fun stories to listen to. So that's what I listen to now. But yes, Art Bell and Coast to Coast, and who was the other guy? Not Willie Strieber. I forget the guy that replaced Art Bell, but he was all right too. I used to like him. Have I tried 4th Street hockey? No, I've not tried anything from 4th Street. Not yet, anyway. And Jeff says there's a YouTube channel called Classic Baseball. I think I subscribed to that. Yeah. And Pete Jet said Bill Chadwick used to pronounce Walt McKechnie as Mackenzie. Yeah, I think he did it on purpose too. Right? I think he did it on purpose. Um, I know trying to go to the Roanoke Rail Dog this season. Oh, it must be a minor league team, right? Joe says, I still have a transistor radio that was my grandfather's, which used to listen to hockey games and baseball games. I sometimes listen to games on it myself now. I did. I used to spend summers at my grandparents' house. I won't get into why. But me and my brother would spend summers there because they had the pool, and I think one of them only worked part-time, and one of them was retired. I don't know if they had retired yet, but when we were kids, we would stay at their house in the summer. And I remember he had this little portable radio, it was about this big, and I would listen to Red Sox at night, and that's how I went to bed a lot of nights. And if the Red Sox weren't on, I used to listen to some local talk radio, and it'd be funny even as a kid. You know, I don't think any kids would listen to stuff now, but it's fun listening to the people would call into the show and they just talk about whatever. And some people would call up and talk about their ailments. And other people would call up and talk about their grandkids. And other people would call up and talk about whatever. It was just like people just called up and started talking. And so I became a talk radio junkie, listening to those shows up in my, my grandfather's spare bedroom where me and my brother used to sleep. But I used to listen to a lot of Red Sox games. And they were just so relaxing to go to bed to. Not a lot of screaming and yelling. You just hear the crowd noise in the background, and it's like, and pitch, and that falls out of play. And that would just, going to bed with baseball would just put you out all the time. Let's see. The Fort Wayne Comets, says Keith, on Whoa back in the IHL days. I used to pick up some of the Comets games. I used to be able to pick those up on the AM radio. That was one of the IHL teams I did pick up, and that was in the 90s. That's the same time I was listening to the Kitchener Rangers on that other radio there. But I was picking up some Comets games too. And again, that was right before, either when the internet first come out for the normal people, or it was before the internet. So I couldn't go look up the team. In fact, I don't even know if the team had any websites or anything. So I think I had to wait for the Hockey News or a minor league hockey magazine to come in. I used to write for a couple of minor league hockey magazines back in the day. So I'd have to wait for the magazine to come out at the end of the month to find out what's going on with the Comets, as far as standings. You couldn't get them anywhere. It's not like the Boston Globe would have the International Hockey League standings. So you'd have to wait for the Hockey News, or there was a couple of minor league hockey magazines back in the day that I either wrote for or subscribed to. But I used to pick up some Comets games. Yep. And Chris says he used to listen to Comets as well. Fantastic. Dwayne says APA has everybody. Some season you have to order the extra cards. See, that's the thing. I'm gonna open up my my zero sugar root beer right now. So still stand by. My coffee is all done. As I wanted to get 95. I want to play some Wakefield, and I want to play some Jose Canseco and Mo Vaughn. And I want to have the Red Sox play Atlanta in the World Series. So I wanted to get 95. I really did. I think I have it in season ticket, so that's where I'm going to play. In fact, I did print out those teams in season ticket baseball. But I thought about getting it in APA. But if I really want to get 95, I have to order the extra cards, and it's going to be like over $100. And it's like, man, do I really... am I going to play enough of that season to make it worthwhile? I just don't know. So that's why I haven't done that. So they do have everybody, but yeah, sometimes you have to order the extra. That's why with the 70's, I think you get everybody, and I don't have to worry about that. That's why I'm kind of hoping that Joe comes out with 95 on payoff pitch, because I know that'll be affordable, and then I won't have to worry about it. Joe also says Abe Paulin was the cheap original owner of the Caps. That I didn't know. And Rob's going to go eat. Rob, what are you going to go eat? If you're still here, what are you going to eat? We went out today. We went to the 99 restaurant today. That's where we go. We spoil each other. Went to the 99. Because I woke up and I got all my work done. I took a shower. He says, I just want to go eat something and come back here and fall asleep in front of the TV watching football. It says, my one day off this week. And I even worked, 3 or 4 hours this morning. So I said, but after this, I'm off for the rest of the day. So we went to the 99, and that's what I had for lunch today. We got the wings and the skins, little appetizer. I like to have some of those. And then she got like a Caesar salad with chicken, and I got the country fried chicken. So it was good. We had a nice little lunch, and that's really all I really had today. Don't get me started on what it's really awful. Reality is awful. Yeah, reality is awful, but that's why we have fun here. Mr. Corey comes by. We're just having a little chat here tonight. James Cass in his most recent episode talks about the new Temco Bowl tabletop game. Let's see how that translates to the tabletop. Mike Gibral, family football, Mike in the truck. He had that. He was showing that off, and I'm interested to see what that does I had a couple pictures of it. I don't know if I've seen any videos on it yet, but yeah, that'd be interesting to see. Jeff's also says, he says, Gus, I used to love Tecmo and Tecmo Super Bowl when I worked in Hollywood Video in the 1990s, and you guys would rotate every weekend to see who would rent it. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, man, we used to rent video games. Yeah, that's what we used to do. Tecmo Basketball on the Super Nintendo was a very good game. I have Tecmo Hockey over there somewhere on my shelf. That I'll be doing that. That was supposed to be my project this summer and or last summer, was to show off all the Sega hockey games here on the channel and do a video series. And I didn't do it this summer. I got lazy again. I had time and I didn't do it. So I need to do that. And Steve's heading now. He's going to stay tuned for some trucking action. Yeah, we were going to have to check that out. We're going to have to check out Steve's trucking. Keep on trucking. And you'll always be a Bruins fan. Well, I will be too. It's just, I'm not a big, I'm not a big fan of the stuff today because they're terrible today. Somebody was posting, all right, hockey's back. And they showed a picture of the Bruins. I'm like, yay. Yeah, remember $100 divided by how many hours you play. Yep, that's what I always say. If you play it a lot, but that's my thing. If I spend $120 on that 95 season and I play 5 or 6 games, $20 a game, maybe. It maybe. Yep. No, I got to see how many games I want to play with that. That's why I try to play a lot of my different games around here, so I can say yes, I played them, and now I don't feel so bad about buying them. So you're right. I should probably take my own advice. Jeff says he's good at APA seasons for a while. He debated not whether to sell his 87. He's not sure yet. I have the ones that I want. I have got 77 through 80. Right? What do I got? I get 69, then 77 to 80, and then 80, 84, 86. So that's what I would really play. In fact, I think it was Mike gave me 86 in Connecticut, and I bought 84 to play in the co-op thing, but I'm waiting for that to get in the second half of the season so I don't have to start looking for players because APA cards ended the season roster. So I want to do that, play a couple more with that with APA Basic. So I have the seasons I want. 95 would be the only other season I'd really want from APA because I don't play any 60s or maybe 75, but I heard they had to reduce 75. So, but for right now, with APA baseball, I think I'm kind of okay myself. Might pick up a couple more APA hockey seasons. I did pick up the 67 and 68 seasons, so now I have my OR run all set. I did a couple of seasons from the 70s that I might pick off so I can round that off as well. Like I don't think I have 72, 73. I have it in Hockey Bones. For some reason I was watching a lot of 72, 73 hockey highlights on YouTube the other day. That's why I was looking at that. And too bad. Sean says the team he wanted to go see in the FPHL moved or folded. They lost 43 in a row last season. That'd be a team I'd want to go see. That'd be kind of cool. Jeff says the 94 baseball set with APA had to pay for the extra card set along with the regular set. Yeah. Anything you get into the late 80s and the 90s and you do have to get the extra cards. Yes, we were talking about that. Joe was fantastic on the show this week. I like the fact that I could just ask him a bunch of questions and he didn't know what I was going to ask him. Joe did not know what I was going to ask him. I just said, Joe, I have some questions for you. I says, I'm not going to any gotchas or anything, but I says, there's some things I generally want to ask. And basically I interviewed him about his gaming. And I thought we had a great conversation. I thought I got him some pretty good questions and he answered them all very well. And we had a fun time with that. I had a great time talking with him. It was one of my favorite interviews I did because I was able just to kind of ask questions and just, learn more about the hobby through someone who's kind of played one game. And Joe said he actually picked up that football game. It's kind of fun to play. Well, that's kind of cool. and the Sony PlayStation come out with a season for 1996 Tecmo Super Bowl, 1996. And Jeff also says he finished playing the 94 baseball players with Appa and got his money's worth. And that's the thing. If you're going to play it a lot, then yes, you're going to get your money's worth. And we talk about that all the time. If you buy something and play it a lot, again, do the math. How many hours have you played, and what is it worth to you? I mean, when you think about it, and this is one argument I use is that if you were to go to uh, a game, a hockey game, NHL game, MLB, football, basketball, it's probably gonna be between $50 and $100 for the ticket, right? So if you get two tickets, it's $100 to $200, and then by the time you go and you pay to park, and then you get your food and anything else that goes on, and any souvenirs. Well, let's just say you don't get any souvenirs. So if you go to a game, and whatever it is, and let's just say it's $300 or $400 for that game. Say $300. By the time you pay for tickets and parking and food, whatever you do, it's $300. You come home and you have nothing but memories. And memories are good. Okay, memories are good. We have a good time of that. But again, you could buy 3 or 4 seasons of your favorite game, and now you have that sitting over here, and you can pick it up anytime to play. Whereas if you go to that game and it's $200 or $300, that's $200 or $300 you're out. You never get back. You can't go back to the game. You can't revisit. You don't have anything to touch with. And and don't get me wrong, I've gone to some games that I wouldn't trade ever. I was happy to pay for those games and go and enjoy them. But nowadays, it's I look at it, it's like, well, what is it worth? Is it worth going to a game and watching it and then coming home and being done with it? Or do I want to like pull it off the shelf and keep playing it over and over? And even with video games, I was the same way. I bought some games for $60 that I must have sank 300 hours into. It's like, ooh, so it's at like 5 cents an hour or something like that, playing those games or less. It's really nuts. And so when people talk about the cost, it's like, well, you'll drop $200 or $300 or $400 to go to one game of your choice, whatever it is, baseball, football, basketball, hockey. So we all the bottom line is we all spend our money on what we want to spend it on. Because I know people that used to give me crap about I used to buy guitars when I played in bands, wasting your money on guitars. Well, I can go over your house and find some things that are pretty expensive that I think you wasted your money on too. So what you consider wasting money, what I consider wasting money are two different things. So we all have money for what we want to have money for within reason. You know what I mean? So don't let anybody ever talk you out of anything. And yes, it was a very, very enjoyable show. I enjoyed it. It was nice. It was casual. That's what I liked about it. We just kind of sat and talked. And Jeff says, always enjoying listening to D to D. Yeah, we got to get another show out this week. My week should be a little bit better because I don't have to work again up in New Hampshire till Saturday. Then it's all day. So I should be able to do a show this Wednesday. I got to figure out what topic we're going to do. I got to get a hold of Vin, see if he can do it Wednesday night with me, and we got to figure out what we're going to talk about. As for costs, I just justify it as I don't go out. So the games. So the games and MLB Extra Innings is my entertainment. Yeah, well, that's the thing. You can buy those subscriptions and watch those games at the house, and you can watch them all. Sometimes it's easy. I don't know about you guys, but as I get into my older age, like we went out today, just she wanted to stop at the store and get something, and then we went over to the restaurant and get something to eat. It was only down the street, and it's just like just trying to get on the highway. I was like, oh my gosh, it's a Sunday at 1 o'clock, and I'm 12 o'clock. I'm fighting to get on the highway. Then I get on the highway. We get off and go into the mall to go to the store, and it's cars everywhere at the mall. It's like, oh my gosh. And then we finally get to the restaurant. It's like, man, that was stressful just getting to the restaurant on a Sunday. Oh man, it's like it was just so sometimes just leaving the house. And I told us, man, sometimes that's why I don't like to leave the house anymore. It is just such everyone's everywhere. It's just total chaos. People are cutting you off. You don't know if you're gonna get in a car accident. It's just I sometimes just don't like going out. And it's just only since I've been older. So I'm kind of thinking that for me, what going to games and stuff, I'd rather just go watch them at the house. That way I don't have to worry about parking. I don't have to worry about driving there. Obviously live events are awesome. When I do get out and go to a game or I do go to a show, it's awesome, and I'm glad I went. But I limit I limit what I do as far as going out to stuff, because it's such a hassle. And even that's why I get my travel anxiety too. It's such a hassle that I get anxiety. I do, and so um, but I like to go out. That's why I just we go out to eat. I don't go to too many things. We don't go to too many crazy shows or travel too much. But like even last Sunday, I had to go to New Hampshire to do the game, and I gave myself a good hour and a half to get there. It's a 45-minute ride. I gave myself an hour and a half, and I was late because the traffic on the highway on a Sunday at 1:30 was ridiculous. 1:30 on a Sunday, and the traffic was all backed up. I was like, "You got to be kidding me! You just can't move around here anymore." Um, and Jeff says, just like with Apple football, it just feels like you're watching a real baseball game, and it flows like it. I was transported back in time. Yeah, well, that's the thing is you find a game, and like the Apple football, it takes me like 3 hours, but by the time I pick the game and set it up and put the ass plate lineup and set it all up and get it ready to go and then play it, it's 3 hours. But it's 3 hours of fun. It really is. And if I do 3 or 4 games and I get 12 hours out of a season, that's $10 an hour. I'm okay with that. And then after that, it becomes less and less and less. So I do enjoy it. Um, that's the other thing we're gonna do. Hang on a second. I need to make a note here. Uh, that's what someone sent a text into the text line, and they had a suggestion on a show. So I'm just gonna write that down when I remember it. And it's something we've touched on before, but I think we should do a deep dive into it. It's collecting, as far as the hobby goes, collecting games, collecting seasons. Is this something we can collect? I mean, I know it's not like a knickknack that sits on the shelf. Like it's like all my pennants here. I just by the way, I put up the Dryden, the Bernie, and the Eddie pennant tonight. That's what that's there for. And they're decoration, and you can't really do anything with them but look at them. But like all my APA seasons here, and all my games in these boxes here, these are all things I can, and the APA here, these are all things I can physically play. I can pull them out and physically do something with them, aside from look at them. And so that's where the collecting part comes in. You know, we want to talk about collecting games and seasons as well. So I think that might be our topic this week. So I had to write that down. But that came in on the text line this week. I was like, yeah, we haven't talked about that in a while. And I know a lot of people, like, we talk about Ron talks about how he gets the PC season. He goes, now I have my whole run for this person, or I have to do my run for the Canadians, or the run for the Giants, or the Bills, or whatever it is. So so I like to talk about that. And Jeff's talking about being a single guy. I don't have a girlfriend to spend $10,000 on a handbag. Yeah, Jeff, those I know that some of those aren't real, because I listen to so many. I'm addicted to them now. I'm addicted to these shows, and they're like 15 to 20 minutes long, so they're perfect. So like I can put it on while I'm like getting ready to go to work or something like that, or listen on my way into work. But it's like all the names are the same. It's just like all the girls are either Maya, Tessa, or Jenna. Like my girlfriend Tessa, 29 female. My girlfriend Maya, and then her favorite girlfriend Chloe. So it's all like that. It's kind of funny. All the girls' names are the same, and they all have the ex from college who's ancient history, and his name is Marcus. So all these little stories, it's all the same names, and it's just they're all and all the girls, right? All the Tessas, the Jennas, and the Mayas, they all work at a boutique part time, and they're all trying to be influencers. So I don't know if it's a certain culture, and they all go to Miami for the spa trip with the girls, and every single one of these stories, I'll call them, and I think they're Reddit stories, they're so similar, and you wonder if it's like the same story just being kind of spun in different ways. But they are entertaining. But some of it just like, we have our wedding come up, and this wedding's it's $20,000 deposit on the wedding hall, and then it's $5,000 deposit for the flowers and $6,000 for the photographer, and the wedding's going to cost $150,000, and it's just is I can't imagine this stuff. So yeah, so when they want to buy an $8,000 handbag, that's probably not out of their budget when you think about the money they're spending. And but yeah, and then they throw tantrums because they're trying to keep up with the Joneses is what it is. It's all about image. And so these girls like to show off their bags on Instagram, and it's this kind of but then they all get bored with their rich boyfriend and go back to the ex from college who was exciting, and then the rich guy kicks him out, and the ex dumps him, and next thing you know, these girls have nothing, and it's just like every story is the same. Every story is the same, but they're just I don't know. They're just entertaining. I hope they're not real, but they are entertaining. Mr. Cleveland baseball fan comes by. Yeah. DoorDash. No, I don't like to order out food. I like to go get it. Unless I'm really, really stuck. I like to eat out because it gets me out of the house because I spend so much time in the house between working here and doing the YouTube stuff. I like to get out of the house. My wife didn't when she worked. She didn't. She was just like, she'd come home from work fighting traffic. She was like, I ain't going out again. But now that she's retired, she's home all the time. She's like, yeah, let's get out of here. So we like to go and sit places. Sometimes if she's real tired, then she's like, well, I'll just order pizza and bring it back. Or just go order something and bring it back. So that's what we'll do. But I like to get out of the house. So I don't think I've ever door dashed. I don't even remember the last time I had a food delivery. Usually I'll just go get it. It's just so much easier because then it's not going to come in. It's going to be cold. So they say, give me 10 minutes. I'm there in 5. And then that way, as soon as it comes out, I pick it up. It's hot. I get in the car. I come home, and that's how I do it because we never order that far away anyway. So I just go and get it. And I just hear too many horror stories about the food coming in wrong or this or that. And I don't need to pay all this extra stuff. So I never do the DoorDash. So, but yeah, I've gone down to pick up Chinese food before, and someone almost wiped me out coming out of a garage. Some young girl she had plenty of time to drive in front of me while I'm coming home, and Chinese food went everywhere because I just slammed on my brakes so I didn't kill her. So yeah, there's that. But I think we're going to talk collecting this week, and especially if I get Vinny on. Did you see the the table load? It kind of looked like a drug bust. The photos he was showing of all the payoff pitch season, it did look like a drug bust. Like, oh, the police, we went in and we raided this house, and look at all the stuff we got. And they put it on the table and they photograph it all. That's what Vinny's thing looked like. It looked like a drug bust. Minor league tickets aren't that bad. Yeah, I used to have minor league season tickets to hockey, and we could get the whole season, and it wasn't that bad. It was a few $100 or so. What was it, like $20 a seat? So if it was $20 a seat, and I don't think there was 40 games. It might have been 30 or 35 games. You're talking $600 a seat. So yeah, that was like a little under $1,000. Sean's saving money for a vacation. Yep. Again, we have money for what we want to do. And Ron's playing 86 baseball next year. Oh, that should be fun. I didn't realize he released the year. Barbara says, if I had $10,000, I would not be buying a handbag. That the last one I bought was $595, and she had it for years. Yeah, it sounds like the Kardashians. Yeah. Well, I mean, again, depends what circles you run in. I mean, a lot of these people, they're making, in these stories, they got to be making 150 or 200K a year. It just from what it sounds like, because when they start talking about their vacations and they're going to the Greece and I just got the BMW, so they're living the life of luxury. I don't know where these people are. I don't know if they're in Southern California or if they're in Miami or whatever. But yeah, these stories are they're the ones from work are relatable, like the work stories I used to like to listen to. It's like, yeah, well, the boss said I'm not paying any more overtime, and we're all going to be working overtime, and everybody walked out. Those are relatable stories, or the boss that said this and everyone walked out. I like, I'm not saying I like those stories, but they're more relatable because I've worked a lot of those jobs, and it's like, yeah, I can see everybody walking out. I can absolutely see in that. There's some pizza delivery stories that were kind of creepy when people go to the house and they look over the shoulder and they see what's going on in the house, and Yeah, and guys like I ain't going back to that house ever. So some of those stories are out there, but they're kind of creepy, so I don't like to listen to them. But these stories here about the women that have nothing and they're just young, and so they think that they own the world because they're young, and these guys just fawn all over them that have money. So they find the guys that have money, and so an $8,000 bag, once a month is really not out of line for these people. And these $150,000 weddings and $23,000 engagement rings. I mean, it's like I can't relate to that. And the woman's like, "Oh, just take out a loan for this wedding. I want this to be my special day." It's like we're gonna go into 150,000. We're gonna get $150,000 loan for our wedding, and that's how we're gonna start off our relationship. Since most weddings, most marriages that get divorced are because of money. You want to start off $150,000 in the hole, and okay, okay, not quite thinking. We're kind of thinking too much of today, not about tomorrow. It's like okay, but they're just stories. Yes, it's all AI generated stories. I wish I could get rid of them all. Yeah, I wonder that, Jeff. I thought the ones I was listening to, I really thought it was people on Reddit and just reading stories off of Reddit, but maybe they are generated. And the people that do the crazy things like they get the private investigators and they follow them around and they're, hanging out with their you know, personal trainer and it's all those stories there. And some of them are relatable. Some of them, when they get into I just bought her a $23,000 engagement ring and she wasn't happy with it. It's just like, yeah, you know. But then again, if I had that kind of money, then it's a different way of looking at things. It really is. It's very different. Collecting. Sean said they never kept stuff sealed, so nothing is worth much. Well, and I don't mean collecting as in buying it to try to sell it later as value, but just as like myself, I have a collection of Apple. I started to collect Strat before when I was playing Strat. Now I collected some payoff pitch, and now I collect like the 49 highlight hockey, and trying to think what else I have here that I ordered in here. But there's certain games that I buy and seasons I get in the hockey bone. So there is some collecting to this here, meaning that I'm not buying it and like never taking it out of the package. And I think one day I'm going to sell it for a lot of money. That's not what it is, but it's just collecting games and even my video games. I've collected a lot of video games. I sold a lot of them recently because I'm like, well, I'm never going to play these. Excuse me, but I have collected a lot of video games, and sometimes it's like I want to put them in and play them. Sometimes I just like to have them. I like to have them on the shelf. Like I can look to my left, and I have a lot of these PlayStation games, and I've collected a ton of hockey games. So at any time, I could just drop in an old hockey game and play it, and I haven't in a long time. But like I've collected them. They weren't that expensive, and I like to have them here. Rather just go to the courthouse and get hitched. Yeah, some people do that, and it's a lot cheaper. We had a very minimal wedding. We didn't have many people. This is 30 years ago. And it was pretty good. I didn't want anything big. I was not a big fan of weddings. I hated to go to weddings. So I said, if I hate going to weddings, I don't want someone to hate coming to mine. So we're just going to keep it low key. And we just did something really, really small. People liked it. People were like, yeah, I liked your wedding because it was nice and easy. You didn't have to dress up too much. You didn't have to buy anything. There was no obligation to just come if you want, hang out. Don't even have to buy me a gift, but just kind of hang out for the day. And that's what we did. It was a fun time. Jeff saw Chris Humphries on a milk carton last year. Okay, I don't know what that joke is. Scatterboo TV. So that must be the Giants or the Giants playing the Chiefs. Is that what it is tonight? I can't believe that the Chiefs are 0-2. That's kind of weird. Jeff said I used to have a baseball card collection for the 70s and early 80s and got lost by the movers. I still have mine. I went through it a few years ago and I pulled out some of the better cards and some of the Red Sox. I have hockey, baseball, and a little bit of football, and it's all from the 70s, late 70s, early 80s. And it's probably not worth much because baseball cards just aren't worth that much anymore. But I still have them. I still have them over there. And one day I'll go to a place and try to trade it. But the problem is, I think I sold some of my hockey cards one time, some of my Bruins teams that I had back in the day, and I didn't get much for them, but I think I got a handful of dollars. And when I was young, I needed that kind of money. So, but they don't pay much anymore, especially the commons. Like everybody just wants, they want Gretzky and they want Orr and Jerry Rice and Ted Williams. So, but I mean, any of the regular guys, no one cares. So I mean, probably 99% of what I own, people just throw in the trash. It's not even worth a penny. You know. You see me wearing the old school Bucks hat. Yes, I like to wear this hat. The Buccaneers wore the cream skulls, and the Patriots had Pat the Patriot. Yeah, well, we were talking a little bit about that earlier today in the show. Was some of the new uniforms that the NFL had on? Not new, but you know what I mean. The Buccaneers went back to the whites today with the orange, which I always thought was very wimpy. Like just seemed like they could never win in the whites. They would just all the highlights of Tampa Bay and the orange, or the white jerseys with the orange trim was just pitiful. It was so bad. And even the Colts, I was talking a little bit about that, how the Colts in the white back in the day, they were so bad. Nobody took the Colts seriously after the Burt Jones era. And then the Saints had their whites on today, which were neat. They had the white helmets, so they kind of look like the Buccaneers, but in like that dark gold and black instead of orange and red with the trim. So the Saints jersey looked good, although they got smoked. And yes, the Patriots, they look like the 80s Patriots with how many fumbles they had today. There was just like a piece of glass on that goal line that they couldn't cross, and it just knocked the ball out of their hand every time. Yep, they should have crushed Pittsburgh today. From what I saw, I was kind of half asleep when I was watching the game, but from what I heard, they had a lot of fumbles. But yes, so the Buccaneers look good today. The Patriots look good today. I didn't like Cleveland. They were all dark. The brown helmet I didn't like with the brown jersey. Did not like that. Maybe the brown helmet with the light jersey might work, but I always like Cleveland with the orange helmet and the orange pants and the white. I like that. That was pretty good. Jeff says, I think there's some psychological reason for changing uniforms. The Jets went back to the retro uniforms and the logo in 1998 with Parcells. Maybe they should go back to those. Maybe, yeah. I like that the Jets, the 85. I think they had that 85 looking logo there. I like that a lot. I like the Giants when it just said Giants on the helmet. Again, that's the stuff from the 80s that I really enjoyed. When the Jets went to that old Namath style logo with a white helmet, I didn't care for that. I don't think that worked. I don't. For some reason, I didn't think that worked at all. Over here in the chat, Big Van Vader comes in. Mr. Vader. He says, Joe Serio, yes. So he was talking to Joe about something or other. I'm behind in my chat again. I'm sorry about that. Jeff says, I think for some people today it's more about the wedding day than actually getting married. Yeah, I think that a lot of these stories about that. It's not so much about I can't wait to marry. It's like I want my day. I'm the center of attention. I want to have a minimal wedding, quiet, without a lot of fanfare, but be happy. Yeah. Yep. That's what it should be. And that's the other thing too, is I listen to a lot of the Bridezilla stories on YouTube. It's like, what was the worst wedding you ever saw with a Bridezilla? And it's just like these girls they're just psychotic. Everything's got to be their way, and it's like the stories are pretty incredible. And I imagine some of them are true because I've seen some of these people that get worked up about it's my wedding. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. And no one can tell me any different. It's like, and some of the stories are how many times that the guy just finally went, see ya, I'm done. It's like I can't take this anymore. Yeah, simple is better. It really is. I know some people that had weddings that you had to travel to, whether it was like Florida or the Keys or Turks and Caicos, whether it's like, I can't go. Don't ask me. Don't ask me to travel, and fly and buy all this stuff. Just if I can't drive to it, then I can't go. That's kind of how I was. So I didn't ask anybody to travel. We had it here. If you're local, great. If you're not, that's great too. You don't have to come. But we kept it local. Instead of talking about how bad the old Colts were, talk about the now. I don't follow the now. I have no idea how the Colts are now. They could be 16-0. They could be 0-16. I don't know. But I know Yes, like Jeff says, the Colts in the mid '80s were horrible, horrible. And he goes, I don't blame Elway for not going there. Um, and he's happy to see Daniel Jones doing well. Okay, so yeah, so okay, he's the guy that left what the Giants? Was it the Giants or the Jets? And he went to the Colts. And I was happy to see that too because I like these guys that go to other teams and they start they become successful or a little bit better anyway. I kind of like that. So I don't know how they're doing this year, but I think I did see that they were doing well. Didn't they? The 2 games in a row they didn't punt or something like that. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. But yeah, back in the day, yeah, they were terrible. I remember them being just a bad team. Um, Only reason to change logos or colors is for money. Well, yeah, that's part of it. Somebody seems like I love it when the Red Wings. Here's our new Red Wings logo. It's exactly the same. Yeah, but we moved the stripe a half an inch down on the sleeve. Okay. And even the Bruins, the Bruins, every time they come out with a new logo, it's like it's the same. No, we thickened the border here a little bit. It's the same. If you bought any of the Bruins jerseys in the last 25 years, they're the same. Unless they had a crazy third jersey, but their main jerseys have not changed. This year, I think they tried to go back to the mid '80s look, which I really liked. I liked the mid '80s look. I wasn't a big fan of the '70s, but the mid '80s I did like. They were similar, but I did like the mid '80s a little bit better. Um, Bob was a nut. I'm sorry, but the guy was insane. Baltimore's a dumpster fire. I wouldn't have played with that team either. And then moving to Indy proved Elway right. Yep, something like that. Yep. Big fan. I am not qualified for wedding advice. Okay, we won't ask. we have a don't ask policy here. We'll do that. And Joe says I've been in the catering business. Nice for over 40 years. I worked too many weddings over the years. It's been yeah, those stories are fun. Again, they're just time wasters. It's stuff that I put on when I'm taking the hour and a half drive in traffic to work and ride home. I'll put that on. Sometimes I'll call somebody. I'll get somebody on the phone and I'll talk to them on the way home just to kind of keep me company and see what's going on. But sometimes I'll just put that on. And see, in the car, I have the Bluetooth so I can put on the YouTube and I don't have to watch it. I can just listen to it, so I'm not watching it. And I can just listen to it like a podcast. And they're stupid entertaining. Just this all the shows, and there's other ones too besides, the jobs and the weddings and the relationship stuff. It's just people just, again, I don't know how much of these things are true, but there's got to be a sliver of truth to some of them. But people just trying to screw people over and then getting their due. And that's what I like is when someone tries to purposely screw somebody over and it comes back and then they're the ones that get screwed. It's like, don't feel bad for you at all. um, Casanova Frankenstein says, I love rewatching the 70s games on YouTube. I thought I would. In fact, I always said that they should put out those full games to buy, and I would buy them. But I'll be honest, when I put on an old game, like it's a full game, every now and then you find one on YouTube or something, they're fun to watch for about 15 minutes. Seriously. And then it's like, I need to fast forward to this, or I need to do something else. I just don't want to watch the full thing. So, yeah, there's times that I thought that too. It'd be great to watch the whole game, but even like the old hockey games, I found some Bruins games from the 70s and 80s and full games, and I'll watch 15 minutes, and then I'll have to skip ahead, and then I'll just go watch the end to see how it ends. But yeah, I have a hard time watching full games of anything, even the games that I really like. I just find that I just can't do that. But I want to. But as soon as I have the opportunity, it's like, I get a little itchy. I got to do something else. Daniel Jones is new Baker Mayfield. Yeah, Mayfield's playing well in Tampa Bay, right? Gus says, my wife asked her Bessie to be her maid of honor, but her friend declined because she wasn't going to be alive on her wedding day. Oh, that's very sad. I just read that. That's very sad. The NFL today celebrated their 50th anniversary. Do they still have the NFL today? Some of those I'll watch. Every now and then you'll see the halftime show. It'll be like a 15 to 20-minute clip. And it's like, Brett Musburger and Irv Cross and Jimmy the Greek, and I forget who the other people are on there. And they're like, you know, at halftime in the Meadowlands, the Skins and the Giants tied at 7-7. It was Joe Theismann hitting Art Monk for 7, and then it was a interception return by whoever for the Giants, and they're tied at 7. In Detroit at the Silverdome, the Lions beating up on the Buccaneers 35-0. They show the highlights. I used to love that back in the day because remember you'd be watching the game. It's like, let's go to New York for an update. That's the only time you could find out what was going on with the other games. Let's go to New York for an update, and you hang on that 10 or 15-second clip. It's like, oh man, that was so awesome. And nowadays, you put on the NFL channel, and they're whipping around the league, and you don't miss anything. Fun back in the day. I miss those days. Although I like having the stuff available now because I'm an information junkie. I do like that. I got to be watching 3 things at once. I got to have my TV on, my phone on, and then listen to something else. That's just me. I'm a overload junkie. I really am. But the NFL today was really great. I did like that. I used to like the pregame shows when they had the little check boxes here. Well, let's take a look at the quarterback, and now let's look at the special teams, and they had the little check boxes going. Those are fun. Stupid fun. It really was. Worst uniform, said Jeff, with the turn ahead clock from the 90s. I don't remember those for the MLB. I don't remember those. Big Van Vader's playing some Apple hockey tonight. Sabres and the Blues in 74-75. And the Sabres are winning 5-0. Well, that's the year that the Sabres, right, they went to the finals against the Flyers. So I wouldn't doubt that at all that they're beating up on the Blues. I love that season. And the Bruins didn't even win that season, but I love that season. Because I like playing the expansion teams. That season right there, it's got the Scouts, the Capitals, it's got the Seals, it's got the North Stars, Atlanta Flames. It just had all my favorite teams in there. So St. Louis, I'm looking at, they were decent. They had 84 points, 35-31. Buffalo had 113 points. Buffalo, Montreal, and Philadelphia all had 113 points. And Buffalo beat Montreal that year, and that is crazy. And Montreal had Dryden. That's probably the one year he didn't win the cup, right? That's probably the one year the Canadians didn't win the cup with Dryden. So that's fantastic that you're playing 74-75 Apple hockey. I love listening to people when they play the games. I like Apple hockey, Apple football, and payoff pitch and things like that. Fun fact for Jeff: he got a job at Hollywood Video. He applied to be a busboy at a restaurant. Got the call from the interview the night I started working in Hollywood. I would be a terrible busboy. Yeah. Yep. You're looking live. Was it Jane Kennedy? Was that the girl? I couldn't think of the girl's name. Yeah, I'm going to be signing off too, Jeff. Thanks for coming by. Yeah, I'm going to go watch some of the game and chill out here. But I just want to come on and say hi tonight. I might get something going tomorrow. I don't know if Jucket's on tomorrow, but I might do something tomorrow. I've had so many appointments at doctors, and so I got some more this week. I just like all it's kind of maintenance stuff, but it just ties up the day. It's like, oh, I can't do anything because I gotta leave at a certain time. But I have an unboxing. I'll do it later on this week. But I have this right here. Oh, it's heavy, so I have to unbox that. I got that in last week, and I just been working so much I haven't had time to do it. Thought about doing it today, but I just ran out of energy. I love his old shows. This Week in the NFL shows way more than today's stuff. I used to like that. I watch those all the time there, Christopher. With Pat Summerall and Tom Brookshire. Those are the ones they had. They started in like 1970. They go way back. And so I enjoy watching some of those. And I like watching them because they pass more than I thought. I always thought it was just like run back in the day, but there was a lot of passing, even in 1970. So I like to watch some of those, and like especially if I'm going to play a game, I like to like if like 1974 game of the week or 1974 this week, I'll watch something like, oh, I need to play that game. I need to pull that out. In one of my football games, I need to play that because I want to get that on the table. So I do enjoy that, and so I enjoy watching a lot of this week in the NFL. They were fun to watch. Just seeing how different football was compared to today, and just the TV coverage and the angles and things they did, and the replays weren't quite as good, and so that was just kind of fun. But I enjoyed that. They would, in fact, it was it. I think it was Steve Sable that did a show on that, and he said that they spent they paid the NFL $2,000 or $3,000 for footage from 1 week of the NFL so they could film it. And they had to pay the NFL to do this. And they put together one of those shows. And the NFL loved it so much that I think they said they either well, bought the company or gave them the rights. Whatever they did, they had to pay for it. They made this video, and the NFL said, "Yes, we want this," and that's how NFL films come into to existence with was it Ed Sable and Steve Sable. But it's interesting that they went out on a limb. They had to spend their own money and pay the league. And that was a lot of money back in the day. And they went out on a limb and they said, "This is what we want to do," and they did it. And the NFL says, "We love it." So that's kind of cool. And we'll finish on a happy note with that. So we'll just kind of wrap things up here. So I just want to come on and say hi tonight. A little too tired to play anything. But I did want to come on and just kind of talk to you guys tonight. It's just kind of informal chat tonight. But yeah, sad to hear about Bernie Perrant. And so Bernie, Eddie, and Ken, three tremendous goaltenders from my youth. Yeah, all in a couple of weeks. Pretty wild. It's pretty sad that it all kind of happened like that. But on a good note, it's nice to see Tampa Bay back in the old white and orange jerseys. That was nice to see. The Saints jerseys was kind of fun to watch too. I heard Seattle's going to be playing some games in their old uniforms, and I love watching that. That reminds me of just a different time in my life and a better time in my life. So, really liking that. Seeing those uniforms come back, and the Patriots, of course, even though they lost, which is fine because they're terrible. But anyway, so thanks for everybody for coming by tonight. Hope you enjoyed our little chat here as we just kind of chatted a little bit here. And yeah, and until next time, hopefully we'll talk to you at some point this week. And that is that. We'll talk to you all later. Bye-bye.